All right, it's already midweek and it's Wednesday, and really we are 3 days into the new month of April, and that means that you should be asking yourself maybe how far with the plans that you laid at the beginning of the year and how much have you achieved so far. And I must say, if you haven't done much, there's still time that you also can do. And really, that is one reason also really we must also really inform you. But really, you are most welcome to the Kokoliriko live show from wherever you are. I really want to salute you and welcome you on board. This is the show definitely that is going to be letting you know of what is happening, right? That is from the city to the national, international level. Really, that is one also really reason why you must also be watching Western Kokoliriko live show each and every mornings. That is from Mondays to Fridays. And it being already midweek, and I must say we have lots of stories. Really, some of the stories could be developing stories that may be transpired over the weekend, or maybe at the beginning of the week, we shall be able to sort of let you know more of those informations. And remember, this week we had a story where a suspected male genital was found in a Kampala restaurant food, and the police has also really come out to talk about the same issue. I definitely will be also really giving you more information about that. And as we return back from the Easter break, I must also really say police also really came out yesterday to clarify on the same issue where 90 people are said to have died within this period here, and so many other stories. And maybe also really I will be tackling later on the issue related to the Ivu MP. I will be also really be telling you more about that. That is why you need to interest yourself with the discussion as we beginning it off here right on the Kokoliriko live show on Western Television. It's a great pleasure having you on board. Really in Arua City, I must say the weather is also a bit so cool and chilly with some bit of rains, but should I call it rains? These are drizzles. I don't know how it is. That means that if you are really maybe somewhere and planning to move into the city today, you need not to forget carrying your jacket or at least an umbrella, or maybe a pullover also really there, so that maybe you are really also not washed by the rains here, because at least this morning we have witnessed some bit of drizzles right in the city here. I don't know how it is in other parts of West Nile sub-region. Really, I also want to welcome you on board in case you are watching us within West Nile sub-region, the other parts, maybe in Jumani, in Obongi, in Maracha, in Mariokolo, in Terego, in Yumbe, in Zombo, in Nebi, in Pakwach, and the rest of the parts of West Nile sub-region, and not forgetting Lango and Acholi, and the other parts of the country. I really want to welcome you all on board. For those of you watching us within central Uganda, Kampala, Mukono, and the other parts, also really welcome you on board as well. I also understand some of you watch us, that's from Western Uganda, in the parts of Masindi, Hoima, Bulisa, and the rest of the parts, not forgetting Fort Portal, and the rest. I really also want to welcome you on board, and the rest of the people watching us maybe outside Uganda. I also want to say it's a great pleasure having you on board this morning on the Kokoliriko live show with me, FARISH MAJID. And really, this is also where we are going to be starting off with the discussions right here. And our final destination will be the hour of 9 a.m. and thereafter the news bulletin. Nubarati will be coming through. And this is also where you will be able to solely have maybe that comprehensive details of what could have transpired over the week, or maybe also really what could have transpired as of yesterday. And that is one reason also really we are going to be also really starting off the discussions right in there. And now to begin off with the discussions with what is happening in the world of health, because usually we say health is wealth, but really where we also really are not healthy, we also tend to witness that we spend a lot of money. That is why we need to also really protect ourselves from some of the sicknesses, other than also really leaving ourselves to them, and which at the end of the day will also really come with its own negative repercussions. And where there is a say that there is a rise in unvaccinated children, which is increasing risks of, that is, disease outbreaks. And this is what experts are saying. And now somebody out there may be also really not be interested in having their children or having themselves vaccinated. And this is clearly manifested during the COVID-19 pandemic. I don't know how many of you, maybe the viewer out there, got yourselves vaccinated, but I must say a number of people shut down the exercise until some had to be forced maybe by other circumstances which could not allow them now to also really avoid running away anymore. And this is where we could see the schools becoming very, very much difficult to access there. Some of the health facilities where without vaccination card, it became really very, very much difficult for some of the people. And that at the end of the day also really had to force them to also really get themselves vaccinated there. But really, why must you have yourself forced maybe to also really undertake some of these government initiatives, for instance, having you vaccinated, which is really something that is there to also really help you and your loved ones protected. And really this is where it is very, very much unfortunate for really people to also really maybe shun this exercise. And that is why I want to call upon the members of the public always not to shun such exercises. And now statistics from Ministry of Health indicate that there is an increase in the number of children who have never received any of the essential vaccines. And today you realize that some of these children weren't born early. At least we have also really had our mothers who take the initiative of really having their children vaccinated in the villages right there. But sometimes some people also really not interested in these vaccines. That is how it becomes really quite unfortunate there. But I must say today you realize that most of these vaccines are really when there's a newborn child after 3 weeks, maybe after 2 weeks, we see these mothers taking them for these vaccines. And really that is something I must also really say has been maybe protecting our children from polio and other diseases and measles. But really once we also really do not get maybe these children vaccinated, and then at the end of the day the burden also really comes back to us as the parents, because really we tend to also now spend a lot of monies in treating these children, yet we would have also really protected them just through the vaccines. And number almost doubled, that is the last 2 years, that is from 55,000 in the year 2021 to that is 96,000 in the year 2023. This is according to assessments of the ministry's figures by researchers from the Gavi Zero Dose Learning Hub in Uganda. And this is where we also really seeing these numbers of people who are shutting down the exercise increasing. But sometimes it is also really due to maybe some of the negative repercussions that these drugs have been having on some of the people. Because really, if you realize what happened with the COVID-19 pandemic, some people actually shunned this exercise because they had negative perception about this disease, maybe these drugs. And really also it was really simply because maybe the drugs also really negatively acted, maybe due to negligence of maybe some of the medical personnel who did not mix these drugs very well, where we did also see some of the people said to have passed on as a result of these drugs, and also really having themselves vaccinated there. And that is one reason I must say it is quite unfortunate for people to really also ensure that they did some such tendencies of really shutting down the exercise. And the Learning Hub in Uganda is being implemented by the Infectious Disease Research Institute in collaboration that is with the Path, a global health organization, and Makerere University with support from Gavi, a global vaccine alliance. And that is where we are seeing also really that institute also getting its support from. And the hub aims that is to determine why some children are never vaccinated and why many are also really failing to also really get the complete vaccinations. And that is one thing also really why it is very much important for parents also really to ensure that their children are vaccinated. And then you move to the villages today, you realize that some of the parents do not want to have their children vaccinated simply because they have the negative perception about these drugs. So what does that call for? I really want to say this also really calls for government to also really take up the initiative of having these children and the mother and having these mothers and the fathers also really sensitized about these drugs, such that they also really get to understand that these drugs are not there to also really cause harm or havoc to their families, but rather it is to protect their children who are almost vulnerable, that is to most of the diseases that we are talking about today. And hub aims, that is to determine why some children are never vaccinated and why many also fail to get complete vaccination. And really that is why some parents also really find it very difficult for them to also really get these children vaccinated, because on the first day where we are told that these children are vaccinated, at times the children overcry. And this is where maybe some of the parents opt not to have their children vaccinated because they feel really pity for their children. So you see somebody really saying, my child is going to be crying a lot. But really, is that what may be crying for one day? Is it also really worth making your child cry, or maybe losing the child maybe to these diseases? And that is one thing also people need to compare really out there, because the child may be able to cry for one day, but really what about the negative repercussions of having him or her not vaccinated? At the end of the day, you may also really find yourselves spending a lot of money due to these diseases. And I believe why it is very much important. For instance, polio today and measles, which are said to be also on the rise among children, because some of the parents maybe are also shunning the exercise. And recently we did see measles outbreak that is in some of the parts of Arua city, more so those actually bordering the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. and this is where we are told that this disease is actually emerging from. But then the question is, what are we doing to also see to it that we protect our children and our beloved maybe daughters and sisters from this disease that we are talking about today? And the simple trick is also really just simple. Having these children vaccinated is the way to go. And while presenting the report, the technical advisor for vaccines and immunization at Perth, Ms. Jacqueline Anena, said based on data that's from the Ministry of Health, District Health Information Officers, that is also abbreviated as DHIS2, and that is where they actually got the report from. And I believe also that is very, very much important. And according to Anena, Wakiso has, that is 25,964 zero-dose children, while Mubende has, that is 3,389, and Kasese with 943 in there. And really that means that really people need to take these issues very, very much seriously of having their also children vaccinated. And somebody may be asking why people are not also really taking this disease, and the advice to them is quite simple. Really, we have, that is according to them, if I can be able to quote them, we have, that is cross-cutting barriers to reaching the zero-dose children, a fear of adverse events following immunization, and this is where the mothers sometimes find it very difficult. And health workers have been reported that they may take months without also really holding an outreach, and they come up when they give injections to catch up. That is according to what Anena is saying, and this is what I was already earlier on talking about, the issues about also really having these parents sensitized, which is very, very much important in there for parents to understand why they need to have their children vaccinated, such that at the end of the day, they will also really take it very, very seriously there to also really have their children vaccinated against these diseases that are really said to be killer diseases out there. Because today really, we have been told some of these killer diseases can actually be avoided by simply having our children vaccinated using these drugs there. And that is why parents also really need to understand, and the only way they are going to understand why they need to also really have their children vaccinated is through these medical personnel who can be able to sort of talk to them. And the technical advisor also said they found issues of inadequate facilitation of VHTs, and really that is also really a challenge that really we need to also really talk about in there, because if we don't talk about that, and then definitely somebody out there may not be able, maybe not understanding why it is very, very much important for them to also really have their children taken for this vaccination, because a child may not also really understand why he or she needs to be vaccinated, because no child is going to be thinking about that. But rather it is you as the parent who has to tell them why it is very, very much important for them actually to have this vaccination, and it is you to take them for this vaccination right at the medical facilities there. And other than that, there's no way that a child who is actually newborn is going to be taking him or herself for this medication, and really that lies into the hands of you as the parent. And that is why I want to call upon each and all of you to also ensure that we take our children, that is for the vaccination exercise in there. And this is quite free, and this is one thing also really we must also inform you that these vaccines are very free, and you are not going to be paying money for them, but rather what you need to do is also really quite simple. That is also really just taking these children to the nearest medical facilities. The health centers are within your reach, and that is one reason also really we need to also ensure that we take these children for the vaccines out there, as we also really summarize the discussions with. And moving on, remember there was this story of a penis that was found in a Kampala restaurant food, which has actually drawn outrage and mixed reactions, and among the members of the public who are now doubting some of maybe the facilities where they have been feeding. And this is where we also going to be seeing some of the restaurants losing a lot of monies, but really we say we cannot also really avoid eating. Really that is why it is also very difficult for us to also really avoid tendencies of eating. And really I believe there's something that needs to be done, and police now await results of alleged male organ in food, and we just hope that these allegations, and government medical experts are yet to release their findings about a suspected penis that was found served in beef stew to a customer by a food vendor from Kampala City Eatery last Thursday. And this is something also really we did see happening in on the papers, and really which has drawn mixed reactions among the mixed members of the public. And really I believe this would also really bring in doubt, because some people may now be asking themselves, how did that thing get into the food, and really where was this meat purchased from? these are the questions that now we expect the owner of the restaurant to also really come out and clearly explain. And really, when they were cooking, couldn't they really also see that this was something that was really not very well? And that was also something we need to understand, because sometimes also really we may be saying really that thing was cooked in the food, yet somebody out there may also really be coming maybe with that thing from outside. But and you remember there are these comic videos that we have often watched, where somebody had no money but moved with a cockroach and really placed the cockroach in the plate so that you could also really desist from paying maybe the food. Could it be the same scenario? Definitely, I do not know, but then that remains entirely into your hands, and maybe you have the right assessment and right judgment of that. But I believe there is need also really for us to assess our hygiene and really also assess maybe where these people cook. Because really, if we do not also really come out clearly ascertain where they purchase the meat from, we are eating bad things. And for us, we think that we are eating the delicious things, and that is where so many of these diseases are emerging. So I think there is more that needs to be done in relation to that, in terms of the vigilance, maybe also really in terms of also really the carefulness of those who work in the restaurants in there, for them to also assess what exactly they are doing in there, so that we do not also really have these tendencies of us eating these very, very bad things in the food. And that is quite unfortunate, and that means that people are going to be moving away from eating meat. And for us, the vegetarians, we are not scared about this, because really we are not scared about eating certain things, because maybe beans is beans, and there's no way that you're going to put meat in beans, which is really something I must say is unfortunate. And really for the travelers, this is where also really the worry is going to be coming in very, very much, because we're not going to be maybe having a lot of market for this food that we're talking about. Because if we cannot talk about this, then definitely people are going to start fearing eating meat. And the delay in the release of the results, according to police, has prompted the police to insist on the detention of the two suspects, the eatery owner and a waitress, to help with the investigation into the Holy Thursday incident. And really that is something also really we did see happening in there. And Assistant Superintendent of Police, that Luke Owais, the deputy spokesperson for Kampala metropolitan area, say that on Thursday, when they submitted the exhibit for examination into the medical and forensic experts, they haven't got any results yet. So I think that is what we are following up on, and we want to understand what exactly was that. Could it be that that was something that really what we know, or it was really some incident that really happened from somewhere? And really the suspects deny any wrongdoings, saying that they bought the beef that is from a butcher in Kampala, but really didn't they check what they were also really cooking? And that is where the question also comes in. And Texas, however, haven't visited the said butchery until they get the medical results that is from the expert. This I really believe police is also really taking long, because maybe these people know where they purchase the meat from. At the end of the day, we may also see these people running away, because we may also really be feeding that's on human meat, and that could also really be the challenge. And really, where are they purchasing the human meat from? That is the question also really we are talking about. And the incident stemmed that's from food rice steamed bananas and beef stew that was served to a customer operating in an area that's of Kampala Road. And this is where the incident actually happened. And now we want to call upon people to also really be observant of where they're eating from and what exactly they're feeding on, so that we do not also find ourselves eating such. And that brings us to the first break of the show, and we are still moving with you up the hour of 9 a.m. My name is FARISH Majid. It's a great pleasure having you on board this chilly morning as we continue taking you through with the Wednesday edition of the Kokoliriko Live right in here on West Nile Television. As we bounce back shortly, stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
AFCON, all 52 games live only on Star Times. Star Times brings you Africa's biggest football tournament, AFCON 2023 live in English and Luganda commentary. Starting January 13th, don't miss Mo Salah, Sadio Mane or Nana. Lead the hunt for gold as they take center stage. Renew your Star Times subscription today and enjoy all 52 matches in HD live on Sports Premium and Sanyuka Prime. Star Times, the official broadcaster of AFCON 2023. This message is powered by Techno, the official sponsor of AFCON 2023.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Alright, welcome back from that short commercial break. This is still the Kokoliriko live show on West Nile TV with me, FARISH Majid, and I hope you are having a wonderful time as we continue taking you through with what is happening in right on the world of papers and really also current affairs. This is definitely the #1 place where you are going to be having access to that information. And remember, so many things are also happening right from the region, and we are also really going to be telling you what exactly is happening in West Nile sub-region. And today we are going to start off the discussions right from Moyo, as we also really want to let you know of what is happening in that part of the region there, and that is the Madi sub-region, where so many things are also really said to be happening in that area there. And I believe you may also really be interested in wanting to know what is happening in there. And Moyo Youth, that is the youth government project to change them society, and also really that is something that we are also really seeing here and the past this morning. And the youth leaders in the Moyo district have been urged that is to take part in different government programs and work hard so that they can make their lives better. And that is one thing also really we are seeing on the past here. And this urge was made by Honorable Isadru Peter, the youth chairperson for the district during the youth council meeting recently that was at Moyo Council Hall. And the meeting brought in a handful of youth leaders in Moyo district to discuss matters related, that is, to the youth and find out ways of also really mitigating through the different challenges affecting the youth today. And really you believe you can really also side with me to that youths are going through a lot. And if I can be able to maybe also mention some of the issues where the youth are also really facing challenges, I must also really mention the issue of drug abuse. And where is this issue of drug abuse resulting from? This is also really at times said to be resulting from the issues of unemployment, which is also really a vice that is deadly biting amongst the youths. And really I believe that is why youths also really need to come out clearly to also really struggle and benefit from these government programs, because sometimes you realize that these government programs, the design in which they come does not really favor the youths, and really most of them actually people who are not also really youths may be benefiting from these government programs. And what does this call for? It really calls for the youth now to speed up their struggles and desires of also really wanting to benefit from the exercise there, so that they are not left behind. And remember, so many of these government initiatives had initially targeted the youth, for instance, the youth livelihood, which was there to target the women, but we have seen it not working very much there. And really that also really tells us how youths also really need to engage themselves into this exercise of also really wanting to benefit from these government programs as such that they are not really also excluded, and really such that they also really benefit from this. Today we are talking about the PDM. There's a percentage that is also said to be for the youth, but really how many youths have benefited from that? That is the question also really we need to ask ourselves out there, and really that it could also really be a challenge. Today you realize in Arua City, we are complaining about the youth being the #1 perpetrators of criminality, and really those also really who are promoting criminality within the city, and those who are really behind the different criminal activities. And yes, this could be the reality, but how have we also really helped the youths out there? That could also really be the question. Today we are also really scared about our phones, where it is very difficult for people to now move freely with their phones also really in the city, and that means that there's no freedom of movement. If you move with your phones, maybe handsets anyhowly, you may also really at the end of the day see the ownership changing there, because sometimes these youths are moving within the city centers. Really some are walking, while others also say to be using motorcycle now, the Senke motorcycles, which today are very much feared by the women on the streets here. And I believe that could be also really resulting from the issues of not supporting the women. And I believe, the youth, and once the youth are not empowered, today we are seeing most of them being killed. And this is also really something that is said to be due to lack of also the support and empowerment, because we have also really seen some of the government projects in Arua City. Most of them have actually not maybe benefited from these government projects. And if you're to really interact with these youths who are said, who to me are really also supposed to benefit from these government projects, you will realize that they do not also really know more about these government projects. For them, they think theft is the way to go, and that means that the leadership really also needs to do very much in terms of also really coming closer to these youth, such that they desist from tendencies of thinking that theft is a way to also really survive. So I think that is why it is very much important for the different stakeholders to also really go back to the grassroots and understand why these people are into what they are doing. And that means let them also really not also sit in the offices and think and dedicate, maybe deliberate on what to do, but rather they have to move into the society and understand what is happening in right there. That would also really be a very good for us also, maybe to see a reduction in maybe the spate of criminality that we're talking about today in the city. And I believe that is the way to go. And Honorable Isadu Peter, the youth chairperson Moyo, urged all the youth in the district to also really engage in the different programs that is targeting the youths, and work hard to make their work very also good, so that they also really have an impact that's within society. And at the end of the day, we would also really wish to see the youths also really steering up the affairs of the districts there, so that we also really maybe see these elders that we are complaining about taking over the offices also really being kicked out. So I think the youth being the majority, we can also really do that. That means that we also really just need to have the belief in ourselves and the confidence that we can do a lot of things. We can change from maybe also the criminality activities that we're talking about. We can become good people. That means that really we too can become the good people. And that means that these youths who are into criminality, for instance, the thieves, you still also can maybe reform and become good people. And those who are said to be evil, you can also reform and become religious leaders. You can also become good people. You can become politicians. That means that really there is a need for now to also reform. Honorable Maridio Uneva, the female district youth councillor, urged the youth leaders and technical persons within the district also to support the youth, to ensure that always there's accountability given to them also really for the monies that maybe a government could be giving them, so that also maybe the youth also understand why government is coming up with several of these initiatives. And Honorable Dramasandi, the district the youth general secretary Moyo, said a lot of questions have been also redirected to them by the public about their roles as the youth district leaders. But since then, the council had been running without plans. It has been so difficult for them to explain, and that is one reason so really they have not been doing their work efficiently there as youth leaders, for instance, to also really bring their subjects on board. And that is one thing I want to also really caution the youth leaders. Let them not also really be comfortable in the offices there, but rather they have to go back to the electorates, and these are the youths who are the majority, for them to also really have a time to understand what they're going through and how best they can actually support them, which to me is the best way to go. Because if we really continue to sit in those offices, Trust me, definitely, we may not also really understand why our colleagues are doing bad things, and that means that also really their cries may not be very, very much important for us there. And Mr. Nyama David, the District Community Development Officer for Moyo District, said before Youth Council meeting there had been a lot of bickering among the youth leaders on different matters, but they have now managed to resolve them, and really among them, and their target is to resolve the issues completely, and really also so that the youth leaders can engage in effective service delivery in the entire district, adding that for the youth to achieve their target, they need also really to come up with work plans which will work out for the whole district. And that means that if at all the youths are to draw maybe plans of what to do, then the plans also really need to fit in what the district is also really trying to do. And that means that the youth leaders need to work together with the various leaders, such that we also really do not also have these fights among the youth leaders, also maybe under the different leaders. Because at one time, really, I must say, there was an angry scenario that I witnessed right in Arua City, where one of the youth leaders was actually pinning one of the technocrats, and this is for failure to have one of the leaders, maybe one of the categories of the youth that we're talking about, involved. And really, I must say that was really quite unfortunate for me to witness, but really it is because sometimes the pain of the youth leaders also really is very, very much difficult, because once they're elected, the youths also continue to demand a lot from them, and really in terms of service delivery. And today, where politics is also not about service delivery only, but really where it's also really about money, it becomes very, very much difficult for the youth leaders also really to step into their electorates there and convince them maybe for the other positions, because I believe as a youth leader, there's no way that you're going to maybe eat for 2 terms or 3 terms. It is unrealistic, because really we also really want to see you move and progress to the other positions, which to me also really is having a challenge, because sometimes the youth leaders, once voted, they disappear from the electorates, because the electorates are demanding a lot from them, and that means that the issues of government non-involvement is also really a challenge to them. And ever since the district youth leaders took over the office in 2010, they have been grappling, that is, from numerous challenges, which have ranged, that's from the outbreak of deadly coronavirus to lack of other factors, for instance, the issues of jobs. And that is one also thing that these youths have been encountering, that is also really with the issues of, that is the youth challenges. And that is one thing I also really want to say, we need to also support the youth there, and that could also really be very, very much important. And more moving away from that, we are now heading, that is, to Greater Nebi, where Awia Quarter Association launches concept paper to support the vulnerable persons in the Greater Nebi. And that is one thing also really we are seeing on the papers happening in this morning. And Awia Quarter Association have on Easter Monday, that is, launched a concept paper that will enhance the well-being of vulnerable persons in the district, and in the districts of Zombo, Nebi, and Pakwach respectively. And this is where we are going to be seeing that support also being extended. And during the celebration of the 10th anniversary of Nebi Primary School playing ground, this was during the celebration of the 10th anniversary at Nebi Primary School playgrounds, and Moshigar Osiga Jackson, the Vicar General Nebi Catholic Diocese, who was the main celebrant, made a call to communities to embrace, that is, the association that will steer hope, that is, to the vulnerable persons there. Today, you realize that a lot of our vulnerable members of the community are really going through a lot, and that is also really why we are seeing also some people committing suicide. And remember, from that area there, we had tendencies really where elderly people were seen committing suicide, where 100 and really somebody plus, 97-year-old plus, committing suicide. And I believe this could also really be resulting from the issues of maybe the suffering that we are talking about today among these vulnerable members of the community. And I believe there's more that needs to be done, because really at that age, there's nothing that you're going to be doing. You now expect help. And where does this help come from? It is from your maybe the grandchildren or the great-grandchildren, or from your children. And once they will fail, it really causes a lot of depression into these people here. And that is one thing also really I want to say when we talk about. And meanwhile, Joyce Pia, the chairperson of Awia Quarter Association, said that over 384 members have joined the association, and appealed to district leadership to give helping hand in supervising the association. And that is also really something that we are seeing. And according to Piwa, Awia Quarter Association is a community engagement aim that is for life transformation, also to support, that is, the vulnerable members of the community there. And however, Tom Ogwang, the chairperson organizing committee for the launch, noted that in many occasions when a member of the association dies, even they make contributions for the burial land maybe, and also really association helps, that is, in both the communities and the registered members of the society there. So I think that is one reason so people need to join these associations, because at the end of the day, they are going to be extending help to those who may also need the help. And at one time when they need the help, they also really extended the same. And that is one reason I must say people need to also ensure that they join such association, which to me at the end of the day is of great benefit there. And meanwhile, Hussein Suleiman, the Nebi Municipality Member of Parliament, who was the chief guest, launched the concept paper with the 1 million shillings as he promised to lobby funds for the association to help, that is, the needy members of the community. And the We Are Quarter Association was formed, that is, in 2014 as an association and sons of daughters of, that is, staff of Nebi General Hospital. And before the launch of the concept paper, numerous activities have been also really undertaken by the association. For instance, cleaning of Nebi town, schools and hospitals respectively, to show their commitment to serve, that is, the public diligently. And Nebi General Hospital is among the traditional hospitals in the country, serving more than 246 persons a day. That means this hospital is actually really helping. And now people that is from the areas of, that is, Zombo, also really we do have people coming from Pakwach, while others coming also as far as the neighbors of neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo to come and access health services from this health facility. And that means government also really needs to ensure that they support this health facility as such that also really they get the help that they want. So that we also want to see a development in that health facility there. That would also really be very, very good for us to also really maybe uplift the health, the status of maybe the health facility and the rest of the people who need actually the services of that health facility there. And that would also really be very, very much good. And now with the upcoming exercise of the yellow fever vaccination, where over 14 million people are set, that is for the yellow fever vaccination, and that means that people have to prepare themselves. And maybe General Hospital would actually be maybe one facility that would also really take up this issue seriously, to have maybe the citizens of that area vaccinated there. And at least that is 14.5 million Ugandans between the age of 1 and 60 years are expected to be vaccinated against the deadly yellow fever disease during the second phase of, that is, the mass vaccination exercise that kicked off. That is on April 2nd. And Dr. Fred Nsubuga, the national focal person for the vaccination campaign in the Ministry of Health, told journalists that April 2nd, that exercise will be conducted, that in 53 districts, really in Greater Masaka, and Kole, Teso, and Karamoja sub-regions, and that is where also really we are going to be witnessing this in the 53 districts there, as mentioned earlier on. And Dr. Nsubuga said the vaccination campaign will also really go until, that is, the 8th of April, that is 2024, where he urged Ugandans to also take advantage of the free services to boost their immunity and guard their bodies against, that is, the disease in there. So I think that's one thing also really we need to also ensure that we talk about, because really, if at all we are also really going to shun the exercise, and then definitely at the end of the day, we may also really see ourselves be caught up by that disease there, which at the end of the day is also really said to be a deadly disease. And for those who may wish to travel in the near future, you'll know how dangerous, maybe how difficult it is to access that vaccine, more so when you are at the time of travel, where it is quite expensive. So I think it is free for now. We need to also really ensure that we get ourselves vaccinated and get the yellow card, which is actually there for 10 years. It means that really for those who actually got themselves vaccinated already, there's no need for you to also really get the vaccines onto your body, because we are told this vaccine stays in your body for 10 years, and that is one reason so people need to also really have themselves vaccinated in there. And here I've said that those who already got vaccinated should not go back for another shot. And that is one thing I must also remind you of, because this vaccine is done once, that is in 10 years, and that is why the yellow fever card, for those who have ever traveled, you know how long it can also really maybe stay in there, and how many times it is needed at the airports for you to also to leave the country, and maybe also for you to jet the country. That is also one requirement for you to travel, because the yellow fever card, without it, there's no way you're going to be traveling. So I think for those who may also really wish to travel at one time, just like me, because I have hopes of one day also really traveling abroad, and I want to also really maybe see what is happening in the rest of the country. That means that I need to also really take part into this vaccination. I believe youth also has the goal and the zeal, and you must also participate into the exercise as well, because really without this card, definitely we may find it very, very difficult at one time when we wish to travel. So I think that is one thing also really I want to remind you of as members of the public, and maybe you as the viewer also really need to take part into this vaccine also this yellow fever vaccination there, such that at the end of the day when you wish to travel, you will not find it very, very difficult to leave the country in there. And Ms. Amron Florence, a nurse at Alive Medical Services in Chisugu Parish Majid Division, said 50 people, including the 3 children, had been vaccinated at the facility by yesterday press time. So I think that's something also really which is also really as a sign of hope. And Ms. Amron said the vaccination exercise at the center started at around 11 a.m. due to delays in securing vaccines occasioned by long queues at the distribution center. That is one thing also really we did see happening in there. That means that this exercise already kicked off, maybe in the various places which are said to be targeted, maybe under this campaign here. And she said the exercise will be helping millions of Ugandans to access services that had been really also preserved for those traveling abroad. So I think that's one thing also really we did see happening in there, and really that is one thing also really we need to also have ourselves vaccinated, and really once we shun the exercise, it will also really have its own negative repercussions onto us, the citizens. And Mr. Godfrey Mangeni, the member of the VHT in charge of Chisugu Market, that is also in Machidi Division, said the exercise went on smoothly and that more vaccination centers will be established at maybe places of worship to reach out to a bigger population. So I think this is where also really those who may also really wish to target maybe a number of vaccinations also really need to also position themselves very well. You need to go to areas where the population is quite huge. For instance, the schools, you need to go to the students and really also place the vaccination centers there. And then the churches and mosques, these worship centers also play a crucial role in terms of attracting numbers, more so during the worship days. For instance, on Fridays for Muslims, we need to also really go and maybe have these vaccination centers around there. As Eid is also coming by next week, we shall be celebrating Eid. And that means that we could also really put the vaccination centers right at the Eid praying centers, so that also really we have a number of the citizens vaccinated. And then the markets, which also really attract the huge population, is actually another area where these people need to position themselves. And then the fields, maybe the sporting leisure places, definitely these also really do play a great role in attracting numbers. So I think placing these vaccination centers into these facilities would also really ensure that people have themselves also really are interested in why they need to vaccinate themselves. And every day we would also really see an increase in the number of people vaccinated against the yellow fever disease there. And Dr. Nsubuga noted that Uganda in the past decade has been hit by more than 10 yellow fever outbreaks, and it is important for Ugandans to get vaccinated and stay safe. And he revealed that about the 3% of the patients who contracted yellow fever in northern Uganda between 2010 and 2011 outbreak, that is to the disease there. So I think we are vulnerable to the disease as northern Uganda. It means that really we have quite a number of people having also being affected by that disease there. And the first phase of the yellow fever campaign was launched, that is in Lira, in June 2023, and it covered the high-risk districts of Kabale, Arua, and Lira in there. And the second phase, while was launched in Akole, and covered that is Ankole, Masaka, Moroto, while the last phase was to cover and will cover that is Jinja, Mubende, and Mbale. These are the areas that also really hit by this disease there. And Mr. Emma Inabiona, the spokesperson for Ministry of Health, said the first phase of the vaccination will be officially launched by the Health Minister, Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng, and this will be in Buikwe tomorrow. And Inabiona said the vaccination exercise kicked off, that is in government facilities and some schools, that really also really will be conducting the same exercise there, that is to have maybe also the people and the citizens vaccinated against that disease. And really that is also why it is important maybe for those who are within the target area, for them to also embrace themselves and also to interest themselves, first of all, to have themselves vaccinated, because first of all, once we do not have the interest, and then definitely I must say you are going to be taking this lightly. And yet this is also really a government program to also help you, because the government also has the mandate that is to protect its citizens, and that is why several of these government projects are coming in place. And that is one reason we also need to implement them seriously. And once they are being implemented, the final, maybe the target group also need to be serious with it. And that is one reason people need not to shun the exercise. For instance, those in those affected areas, that also be part of that. And really, once we are not going to interest ourselves with this disease, the vaccines are going to be rotting. And remember what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. We had vaccines and dosages purchased, but people were not able to also really go to these medical facilities to have themselves vaccinated, which was really quite unfortunate. And where we are told, and now the vaccines also expired, which was really quite bad, where government also really spent a lot of money to purchase these drugs, and citizens just shine like that, then that becomes very much bad, because at the end of the day, we are wasting taxpayers' money. It is a resource that is being put into waste, and yet it is us, the citizens, also really who are vulnerable to this disease and attacks there. So I think my humble appeal to everybody out there is to take this disease vaccination very, very much serious, because at the end of the day, if at all we are not interested also into vaccinating ourselves from this disease, and then definitely we are going to be losing our loved ones. We are going to also die as a result of these diseases, yet we would have avoided them. And then for you, as a reminder, I cannot also exclude reminding you who wishes to travel, just like me, as I said earlier on, me who was interested maybe in traveling, in wanting to see what is happening abroad or elsewhere. Definitely, before we waste a lot of money, by that time we want to travel, let's have this exercise maybe taken seriously at this time. Let's get the yellow fever vaccines, let's get ourselves vaccinated, as such that once we want to travel, maybe once that time comes when God will say, you need to travel now, you need to go to America and see what is in America, definitely you must also be in possession of that yellow fever card there. And this would also really be now, because at the end of the day, this card that you're going to be having is going to be lasting, that is for 10 years. So within now, maybe in the next 5 or 6 years, you need to also really keep the yellow fever card very, very much importantly there. And according to World Health Organization, yellow fever is a serious infectious disease transmitted by mosquitoes that bite mostly during daytime. So I think that is one thing also we need to talk about yellow fever, because if at all somebody is infected with yellow fever and maybe the mosquito goes and bites that person there, and really after biting that person moves to you and also bites you, definitely you are going to also have that disease transmitted onto you there. And the yellow fever signs and fever symptoms include that fever itself, and really we're also going to be talking about yellowing of the skin and eyes, hence the name yellow fever. And we also we have other signs, for instance, dark urine, abdominal pain with vomiting and bleeding that occur from mouth, nose, eyes, as well as stomach. So I think these are some of the maybe the signs of yellow fever somebody out there may not be knowing. So I think it is a humble appeal. Let's have ourselves vaccinated so that we also really do not put these government programs into waste, because the government is targeting also to protect the citizens. And I don't think if there's maybe any way government would wish to harm the citizens themselves. And that is why the issues of the negative perception about these government projects need to be put aside. And really that does bring us to our second break of the first hour. And remember, this is the Kokoliriko live show, and we shall be bouncing back for the second hour with lots more of the stories. And remember the issue of the tax, really I must remind you, where there is a proposed tax where if I told you are supposed to sell land, government also really is supposed to have maybe a percentage. And then we also talking about movable assets, and really once you're supposed to sell something, government definitely is also really supposed to put a tax onto that. What do you think about that as a citizen, maybe as a viewer? What do you make of these various taxes that we are having in place? Because most of the time people do not want to pay taxes, and that is why at times we also seeing smuggling being very, very much in the region, more so in Western sub-region. What can be done? Maybe this tax is too much. What should government do? Should government maybe also remove some of the taxes? That is entirely onto your hands as the viewer to also really share your opinions as we bounce back with discussions into the second hour.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
AFCON. All 52 games live only on Star Times. Star Times brings you Africa's biggest football tournament, AFCON 2023 live in English and Luganda commentary. Starting January 13th, don't miss Mo Salah, Sadio Mane or Nana. Lead the hunt for gold as they take center stage. Renew your Star Times subscription today and enjoy all 52 matches in HD live on Sports Premium and Sanyuka Prime. Star Times, the official broadcaster of AFCON 2023. This message is powered by Techno, the official sponsor of AFCON 2023.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from that short break, and we are 6 minutes into the second hour, that is of 8 a.m. And really, in case you are just joining us right now, you are most welcome from wherever you decide to watch us from. And really, we do not take it lightly, and we appreciate your company. And definitely, we are in, that is for you to also really understand what could be happening, that is right from the region and nationally, and also internationally. That is one reason also really you need to be part of these discussions. And really, we in a similar way want to welcome each and everybody, and really where you may be watching us from. It could be within West Nile sub-region, it could be outside maybe West Nile, for instance, maybe in central, in eastern, maybe also really in the other parts of the country, but really we do not take it lightly. For those of you watching us maybe over the seas, maybe outside Uganda, we also really very, very much appreciate you for the company there. And really we are back into the second hour, and still we are going to be letting you know of what is happening that is right in the country. And really, as we headed into Easter break, where really a number of accidents are really said to have also really occurred, because as we did conclude, that is the Easter break, so many people are said to have died, and really a total of at least 90 people are said to have died. That is according to police report in there. And really I must also remind you about that. That is also really why it is very, very much important for you also really out there to be maybe knowing maybe what exactly happened to this people here, and that would also really be something very, very much important for you to understand. And that means next time maybe you could also really take precautions, measures, also really precautions and measures to also really see yourself also really avoiding maybe some of this incident happening in there. And really you realize that during the Easter break, so many people also really are said to have died. And these are according to report that is from police, and really other maybe also these are across the country, and these are incidents maybe that resulted into a number of incidents, and at least 91 people died in crime-related incidents during the Easter holidays. And this is what authorities have said. And really you realize that police on Tuesday said from March 29th, that's from March 29th to April 1st, at least 45 of the above died, that is in road crashes, while the other fatalities were through murders by stabbing, electrocution, and murder by shooting, drowning, suicide, sudden death, and also murder by mob action, among other cases. And really you realize that so many things were happening during also really within this period here. And police spokesperson, that is Fred Enanga, disclosed that a total of that is 62 major incidents were reported, that is to police, during the period, compared to 44 incidents recorded during the the Easter holidays in 2023, and this is where also really we did see a number of also really incidents happening there. And he went on to add that during the Easter festive season, 46 lives were also lost, but 52 suspects were also arrested, including, that is, criminals for terrorizing people in Quito, in Matuga, in Gombe, Nansana municipality, and other areas. And really, this is where we did witness a number of also really criminals arrested within that area. Then Police Directorate, that's of Traffic and Road Safety spokesperson, that is Michael Kananura, noted that from March 28th, that is to April 1st, really a number of people, about at least 125 people were sustained injuries also really to road crashes. Really, that is one thing I must say. As we enter these roads, let's also mind about the other road users. First of all, this goes back to the drivers, the issues related to drink driving, which are really prohibited. Let's also really abide by them, such that we also really do not put the lives of those who want to also really see protected very, very much safe in there. At the end of the day, I must say that is also really something that we need to also really talk about, because once we do not talk about these instances, definitely we are going to be witnessing a lot of people dying, that is, these road crashes, which at the end of the day also comes with its own negative repercussions. And now I want to make a call, that is to everybody out there, to ensure that really we protect these other road users. For instance, maybe the passengers, maybe also really those passerbys, those maybe who are walking also really on their way, that we as drivers, maybe as motorists, let's ensure that we protect them. First of all, how are we going to protect them? Avoiding overspeeding, first of all, and secondly, respecting the other road users, because you as a driver today, you are feeling very big just because you're driving. At the end of the day, after killing that person, then definitely that is when you are going to be opening up your eyes. For instance, where you leave one dead or maybe one injured, where also really the instances become very, very much difficult, I must say that would also really be very much dangerous to you, because you are going to also really risk money that you would have used for developing yourself in terms of doing compensations here and there. And that is one reason I also want to caution now members of the public, for instance, those who are driving these machines, not to drive them under the influence of alcohol or maybe under the influence of others. We need to also really talk about this, because sometimes people want to show off that they are driving. That is how they have also really been able to cause a number of these accidents, because I may be with you in this car. Today you may have hired this car maybe from somewhere, and you want to show off to me that you know how to drive at terrible speed. At the end of the day, you're going to put, first of all, our lives at risk, not only yours alone, both me and you. Our lives are going to be at risk. And really, after throwing the vehicle, I may not also really be there to compensate. It will be you entirely. So that is one reason I also want to say people need to also really avoid from issues of wanting to show off. And really, that is also really how, at the end of the day, we are going to protect ourselves from these accidents. And really, out of these 89 cases, we are really driving without licenses. And really, that is where we are realizing also really these drivers who drive without licenses, and 435 are said to have also really been driving using expired licenses, while 257 we are driving out of class, and 5 had forged driving licenses. This is according to information also really we did receive, that is from Michael Kananura, the spokesperson for traffic, also giving out a brief of some of these errant drivers and cases registered during the Easter break there, where at least 90 people are said to have actually perished during the break there. And this is quite a huge number, and really you realize that from 28th up to 1st of March. This is quite a huge number, and really that, what does this call for? First of all, it calls for vigilance, where we need to all be serious. Let's be mindful. Let's also really be cautious while we're onto these roads here, and that means that issues of drink driving needs to be avoided. And this is where I want to call upon each of the drivers. Let's be focused while we're on these roads, because really our lives, for instance, those of us who are walking, our lives are entirely into your hands, because really if you also really lose control there, and yet you are overspeeding, maybe also you are driving under the influence of liquor, that would also really come with its own negative repercussions onto us as maybe the road users, for instance, the pedestrians, who are more vulnerable to the risks of these errant drivers. So I think that is why I also want to caution upon maybe the traffic police and also other agencies to speed up, that is to also really doing the surveillance on these roads. Let's also really not come out just at a specific period of time, because it brings in doubt. Because right now, if you can be able to see what is happening, where we're witnessing a number of police officers on the roads, this has also really drawn maybe questions from also members of the public who are saying to these officers, are they looking for money for Eid? Have they been looking for money for Easter? That is where the questions always come in. But really, to avoid certain of these activities, let's be on the roads every time. That would also really maybe make the public, maybe members of the public also really understand why they need to also really be focused, maybe why they need to be serious on these roads. And then the issue of maybe kitu kidogo also really needs to be avoided, because it is where we are witnessing tendencies of people driving without maybe the license also coming on maybe at. And then the issues of also really people using the expired licenses, maybe out of class, maybe permits. Also, this is where I believe this is where also these challenges could be coming from, because once these maybe officers also apprehend you, at times we also see them also really giving something small, maybe something small. The something small is what is causing most of these accidents. And now I want to say, let's desist from these tendencies of something small. Let's leave it such that at the end of the day, we are not also really putting the lives of those who are on the roads at risk, because you are taking bribe from this person. Then the following day, this person may knock an auntie of yours, maybe knocking a sister of yours, even could be knocking you as a traffic officer who is actually taking this money, because at times we have also seen traffic officers being knocked on these roads. So I think let's avoid tendencies of what we are talking about. We are not pinning maybe anybody for this, but really at times this is the reality. We have seen it happening. We have heard stories of kitu kidogo, and that means that it is happening. So I think to avoid that, there is need for us to also really ensure that once we're on these roads, let's be focused. Let's do what is required of us on these roads. And that means as traffic officers, when you are seeing a vehicle that is said to be in dangerous mechanical condition, the DMCs, let's tow them off the roads. Let's arrest them, let's impound them, and let's take them to the police stations so that maybe the owners who may also need these vehicles can have them serviced. That is from the garage. Recently, we did see a garage actually in Arua City launched by police that is also really there to also really ensure that the vehicles of the force are properly maintained. So I think taking these vehicles there at a cost, at the cost of the owner, is also really what we need to undertake. And then the motorcycles, where we're also talking about motorcycles without brakes, and then maybe also those without number plates also need to be arrested as well. And then those who actually have no side mirrors plus lights plus horns, these are all things that are said to be in dangerous mechanical conditions. Let's have them impounded so that the owners can also really go in there and maybe also pay some fees and fines before really also getting their vehicles maybe also serviced. That would also really act as a warning for those also who are not really also abiding by the laws in place. And I really want to say that is one thing that we need to do, and at the end of the day, that is so how we are going to be avoiding accidents on these roads here. And Kanura saying such operations will intensify even after the Easter season, and that is what we also really expect also police to continue undertaking, because at a time where we also really also talk about this, and then definitely we may also really not be able to also really see what we're talking about. And that also summarizes our discussion, and still related to Easter, and I believe the final discussions of Easter will also really be going on, that is today. And other than that, we do not expect more discussions because Easter is gone, and maybe what is remaining is now Eid. And that means that really for the Christians, you have already celebrated Easter. Usually the Christians, Muslims also say during Easter, if you have not invited me, Eid will come. And then are we also going to be seeing maybe those Muslim Christian friends will not invite their Muslim friends be invited on Eid? We are yet following up on that. But really, maybe as Christians, if you had not invited your Muslim friends, then there is need for you to be worried at this time, because at the end of the day, you may also not see the invitation for Eid. So I think for those who celebrated Eid alone, for Easter alone, sorry, Eid is also coming. Maybe you may not also receive invitations there, but nonetheless, you still also have to force your way and visit them. And that is one thing, and I must say, nobody's going to send you away, and nobody's going to deny you food. And that is one reason, sorry, we need to coexist. We need to live together, because at the end of the day, we are the same people. We are Africans. We are maybe also really different tribes, but really, yeah, it could just be religion separating us. But nonetheless, we are still the same people, and we must also really coexist. And that is why we need to also really put issues maybe that are affecting us aside, but rather we have to be as the same people. And still related to what happened in Easter, Tororo mourns priest who died on Easter. That is also another story that we are seeing here. And thousands of mourners on Tuesday gathered, that is at Uganda Martyrs Cathedral in Nyangole in Tororo district, that is to pay their last respect, that is to a Catholic priest who died on Easter Sunday. And really, I must say, this man also died on a good day, and this is Easter. Really, I believe, also really, you as a believer out there believes, if you die on such a day, definitely heaven's gates are open for you, because these are holy days, and really these are days that are very, very much important in the lives of the believers. And really, I must also really pray for his soul to rest there in eternal peace, because as the people of Tororo, we also really continue to mourn with you and say, may the soul of Father rest in eternal peace. And Father Dismas Owino died on, that is March 31st, that's from Zambia Hospital in Kampala, after he had battled, that is diabetes and hypertension, according to church authorities, for quite some period. And really, that is what also really claimed his life in there. And the main celebrant at this funeral on Tuesday was, that is Tororo Archbishop Emmanuel Obo, who called upon the congregation, that is to always ensure ending life well by fixing their eyes and having a personal relationship with Christ. And that is one thing also really I want to call upon you as the viewer out there, also really to go back and have your life maybe closer to God, so that once you die, you are prepared. And really, once you die, when you're prepared, is always fun, because definitely you are not scared of anything. But for those who are not prepared, for instance, those who are doing evil right now, once death comes to them, definitely we are going to be also really seeing them fear, because they are not certain of the life after death. Because life after death, and me as a believer, I believe it will come. And really, that is one reason also you too as the viewer, if you also really a believer maybe in life after death, and then definitely you must start preparing now. Because if you don't start, maybe not start preparing right now, we do not know maybe what time death will also really maybe happening to you. So I think that is one thing also really I want to call upon also members of the public, also really to also ensure that they also do that. And he also eulogized the deceased as a truthful man who was of good conduct with the dog, and as also really who had good conduct that was at conflict resolution, and he was also as well a good teacher. So I think that is also really something that we do also maybe we shall be able to sort of maybe remember the Father for, and really as Pope Torodo we say may his soul rest in eternal peace. And that is something that we also really have to interest ourselves in there. And moving away from that, now let's head into education, where really education plays a great role. We cannot also really exclude talking about what is happening in the world of education. And government now has yielded to pressure that as it accepts PTC tutors as scientists. And remember, these teachers maybe who are teaching sciences at the PTCs have often raised challenges of them not being recognized as scientists, and really these have also really recently threatened to demonstrate. But now finally their hope has actually been given, and now they are hopeful, as government has now yielded to the pressure of accepting them as scientists. And that is something I must say is also really very, very good in there. And the permanent secretary, that is the Ministry of Education and Sports, Ms. Katie Lamaro, they has clarified that there are scientists in primary teacher colleges, and amidst threats by a section of science tutors to lay down their tools recently. And the latest position follows a directive that's by Ministry of Public Service officials tasking Ms. Lamaro to clarify several issues in response to petition by also these teachers also to be recognized as scientists in there. And the latest position follows that's the directive, and really that is also really where we do have this issue coming on board. And in November 24, letter addressed to Ms. Lamaro, Mr. Godfrey Kaima, on behalf of Public Service Permanent Secretary Ms. Catherine Bitarakwate, tasked Ms. Lamaro to state her ministry's position before several issues can be looked into. That is also something we did see happening in there, and that could also really be what caused this pressure. And in reference to the above petition, a meeting was held, that's at Ministry of Public Service, on, that is November 23rd of 2023, which was attended by your ministry and the leadership of Uganda Professional Science Tutors and representatives of the tutors in PTCs. And the meeting agreed to formally present issues, that is for you to clarify on the following matters: whether there are scientists in PTCs, whether secondary school teachers are eligible for employment, and the circumstances under which a person with no specific training or qualifications and specialization in ICT would also be appointed and deployed as an ICT teacher in secondary schools. And that is also really something what was also really put in the paper there. In response to this maybe questions, Ms. Lamaro confirmed that the science tutors and PTCs should be also really treated as scientists, and that is also really why it is very, very much important. And really, I believe without them, they also really cannot do very, very much that is improving science. Because today you realize that the government's initiative is also really very, very much focusing on to the sciences. And that is also really why the president is very, very much interested in improving, that is the livelihood of the science teachers, and also really talking about innovation in, and really in most of his speeches, you realize that he cannot exclude talking about scientists. And that shows how committed he is, that is into uplifting the status of the scientists. And really that also really must also really give hope maybe to our children, our learners, maybe out there who are really also watching us, you must also really be interested into sciences such that also really you are not also left out in there. And in 2022, President Museveni ordered a pay enhancement that's for all scientists, including that is science teachers, but a section of tutors in PTCs alleged that they were not earning as scientists, and that is where their question and queries have been on. And Mr. Aaron Mugaiga, the secretary that is of Uganda Professional Science Teachers Union, also told really journalists that the science tutors' salary was increased from 1.2 million to shillings 4 million for degree holders. That's really from 900,000 to also to shillings 2.2. That's for diploma holders, really. But some of them we are not able to earn that amount between that is July 2022 and August 2023, after which they were taken back to the old scale. So I think that's where also really we are seeing this happening, because really without teachers we are not going to be also seeing the society very, very much transformed there, because the teachers play a great role, and we cannot also underscore what the teachers are doing, and that is one reason so really we need to also talk about the teachers. And last month, the representatives of the more than 400 science teachers who are affected camped, that's at UPSTU office in Kampala, and resolved to lay down their tools with effect from April 1st from April 4th if they are not recognized as is stated in the approved cabinet science salary. So I think that's also something we did see happening there. And Mr. Godfrey Tabo, a science tutor from Bulera Kwa PTC in that is Hoima City, said he has in the last 6 months received less money. Really, as really we did see him also really complaining there, and really this is something also we need to talk about. And on the other hand, of whether secondary school science teachers are eligible for employment as tutors in PTCs, Ms. Lamaro said this was done to bridge the staffing gap, and really that is also really something we are talking about happening in right there. So I believe there's more that needs to be done, and that would also really explain why there's maybe need for rise in the science teachers' pay, which at the end of the day would also really come with its own achievements and goals. Because if at all we do not also really empower these teachers, that is why we're going to be witnessing what is happening maybe at the primary level teachers, and which is really said to be something very bad, because a teacher who is earning really 400,000 with maybe the responsibilities at the end of the day has maybe that money cannot do more, and that is one also reason they are being forced. Today that we realize that most of our teachers are into the markets as vendors. We're also seeing our teachers as border riders, because they have to work and they have to hustle to sustain their salaries, which are very, very much meager. And I believe also government has the mandate also to also uplift the status of these teachers through also enhancing their salaries, which at the end of the day also really would improve on their livelihoods. And really, if at all maybe we want to see a teacher transformed, then definitely first of all government also really needs to ensure that their money is also really improved, and the money government is also supposed to give them also comes from us as the taxpayers, and that is why we also need to fulfill our obligations of paying taxes, because what government uses for paying the teachers is what comes from us. And that definitely tells us why we need to also support the teachers, and really we not also need to leave the support of giving help to these teachers into the hands of government alone, but rather we as stakeholders also really have a lot to do, that is in terms of supporting the teachers in there. And that is why I want to call upon each and everybody out there to also really give out the necessary support to the teachers. And if you move to the villages today, you realize that our teachers are really going through a lot, and that is why we are witnessing them getting depressed. And recently we did run a story here of how the teachers we are spending their nights into the classrooms because the staffing houses are not there, and that also tells us why it is very, very much bad. And recently we did run a story that was in Arua City here, and I believe we also saw what happened during that time and really how unfortunate it is. And I believe that is also really happening elsewhere, coupled with the issues of the staffing houses. And now I want to call upon each and everybody now to also ensure that we extend a helping hand to these schools, for instance, in building these staffing houses at the end of the day, which would also really come with its own advantages. And I believe if at all we support the schools, that would also really earn a plus for us. And really, how do we support the schools? First of all, building the schools for staffing houses for them is the way to go, so that we keep the teachers within the schools. And really that is also one thing I must say, keeping them through the schools, maybe at the school, is also one thing that would also at the end of the day help uplift the performance of this region. And really one reason our children may not be performing very well is because our teachers trek long distances and they have to go rent maybe cheaper houses, and this would also really not be within the vicinity of the school. At the end of the day, we see the teachers may be coupled with the issues issues of rain, like what we did see in the morning. A teacher may also really say, I cannot go to classroom, and yet there's also need to, for them to also really go and cover what they're supposed to be covering. And also in our region here, where compensation of lesson is very difficult, that becomes also very, very much difficult. That is why also in the issues of that is lesson coverage or syllabus coverage, we may also really find it very, very difficult there, because if at all, we do not also talk about the issues of syllabus coverage and coupled with the issues of the science or maybe as teachers. And I believe all the teachers also really need to be paid the same amount, because be it an arts teacher, because really without arts also sciences may find it very difficult. For instance, where are we going to be having the lawyers? Where are we going to maybe having the accountants from? These are from the arts section, and I believe also really they also need to have their salaries also enhanced there, other than putting more emphasis only on the scientists. Yes, as much as we need the scientists, we also need the arts. Where are we going to be having the arts from? Where are we going to be having journalists? Where are we going to be having maybe the accountants? These are arts. I believe now there's also need for also government to have the consideration of the arts teachers, so that we also are not seeing our teachers on the roads as border cyclists, as maybe market vendors, maybe as saloon operators, because they have to sustain their salaries through also really doing these other activities, which to me is also really causing a lot of challenges, maybe in terms of also really the syllabus coverage in there. At the end of the day, we want to see a balanced society where we have both arts and scientists moving together, which will also really help also really uplift the status of the students, maybe also really also improve on education, that is of West Nile sub-region. And that really also brings us to our first break of the second hour, as we bounce back shortly. But up next, remember, our final destination will be 9 a.m. After 9, we shall be having the news bulletin in Lubarati. But before we get to do that, we are bouncing back with what is happening in the world of sports. As yesterday, the draws, that's for the regional league secondary school games, were released, and the organizers are very, very much hopeful for this tournament that will be able to take place in Koboko, as all the districts in West Nile sub-region now know who exactly will be representing them at the national, maybe at the regional competitions there. Let's await maybe to see also really which group is going to be facing which group and which school is lying in which group. Definitely I will be also letting you know that. And remember, yesterday we also did have games maybe happening in the world of the Premier League. I will also really be letting you know how the games did end in there. But for now, let's first have the short commercial break, and we bounce back shortly from now. Thank you.
John.
only on Star Times. Star Times brings you Africa's biggest football tournament, AFCON 2023 live in English and Luganda commentary. Starting January 13th, don't miss Mo Salah, Sadio Mane or Nana. Lead the hunt for gold as they take center stage. Renew your Star Times subscription today and enjoy all 52 matches in HD live on Sports Premium and Sanyuka Prime. Star Times, the official broadcaster of AFCON 2023. This message is powered by Techno, the official sponsor of AFCON 2023.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Welcome back as we head into the evening of the show. That means that we are just remaining a few minutes. That is to summarize the show, and up next will be the news bulletin in Lubarati. But before we get to give you that, we still have lots more prepared for you in on the show, and that means that you need to also still be part of the show as we now head to summarize the discussions with what is happening elsewhere, that is in Africa. And really now let's start the discussions in Ghana, really where we are seeing outrage as a traditional priest who is aged 63 years, is married at 12 years old. That also really brings out as outrage, and really that brings outrage, and really a number of discussions maybe also really in the members of the public who are saying, how can a 63-year-old man marry that is a 12-year-old, and above all, that is a religious leader, and that is where we're also seeing a number of challenges happening in there. And an influential traditional priest aged 63 years sparked an outrage that is in Ghana, year-old girl, and this is something we are seeing also in the papers this morning here. And the priest identified this as Nomo Bokete Lawe Tsuru, really also married her in a customary ceremony that was held over the weekend. And in the face of criticism, community leaders have said people do not understand their customs and traditions, and really that is quite unfortunate. But our laws against really somebody being married below the age of 18 years, but really where we are seeing a 12-year-old married by a 63-year-old in there becomes quite unrealistic. Maybe also really it becomes not maybe good for us, but it could be maybe the tradition, it could be allowed in their customs, but really what are the laws saying? That is something that we need to look up into. The legal minimum, that age that is for one to get married in Ghana, is also the same as Uganda, for that stands at 18 and above, and really the prevalence of child marriages has declined, and really, but it continues to happen amidst all the several campaigns that are in place to end child marriages. But really where we are seeing this happening, it becomes really quite unfortunate. But how are we going to maybe see this girl who is supposed to be in school, maybe we're supposed to be doing her a lot of things, really also really be maybe protected from that marriage there? That is also really something we need to also talk about, because we may be talking about it happening in Ghana, and yet the same circumstances could be happening even in our vicinities here, but we're not talking about that. That means that really we need to protect the girl child, and really marrying somebody at 12 years old is said to be very, very much unfortunate there. And according to Global Campaign, NGO girls, not about the girl child, the first appointment of the lady as the first prime minister of the country there. And that means that both Uganda and our neighbors, Democratic Republic of Congo, now have to be doing an extra good job. And that means that we need to support the women out there who are really championing also really leadership there. And that means we need not also copy, maybe we need to copy example from what is happening to them. And that it means that as parents, issues of marrying our girls at a tender age needs to be stopped, so that we also really get to see our girls being very, very much happy there, and also really serving us as the country. And that is one thing also really we did see happening in the DRC. The President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, has appointed Judith Suminwa to look at the country's next prime minister, and the former planning minister to look at steps into the new role. And intense fighting between the Congolese and the M23 rebels has exacerbated, and real security crisis there with long-running conflicts. Despite its place, which more than 7 million people, and according to UN, it is one of the world's most humanitarian crises happening in there. And that means that really we need to also support women. And usually we say what men can do, women can also do it better, and that means also really that needs also needs our support, and we need to support the girl child, so that we also do not talk about them also really lagging behind them. That is in terms of leadership, and that means that women also really can do a lot as leaders of various representatives also there. So that also summarizes our discussions. And now let's see other venues that in Group A there, that is for the boys category. Meanwhile, for Group B, we shall be having St. Daniel Komboni, that is also really in Group A there. Then we shall be having Lodonga Seed, St. Aloysius College Nyapea, Mvara SS, and not forgetting Ushindi SS. Meanwhile, in Group C, we shall be having, that is Niva High, formerly known as Nile High. In Group A there, we shall be able to have also Yivu SS, assist also in Komboni Comprehensive, Oreagin SS, Comprehensive SS, Daropi SS. And then in Group E, we shall be having the host, that is St. Charles Luanga, who qualified on basis of being host there. Really, we shall be also having Paida SS, Rhino Camp SS, Idiwa Parents SS, Nebitown SS. Meanwhile, in Group F, we shall be having, that is Bejal Hij, Nile High. We shall be having Wadla SS and Odraf SS. In Group G, we shall be having, that is Korolo Seed, Public SS, Ulepi SS, and as well as Wandi SS, St. Francis Ayume Memorial. Meanwhile, in Group H, for the boys category, we shall be having, that's Okufra SS, Hawa Comprehensive, Fanyango SS, and Nyumanzi SS. That is for the boys category. Meanwhile, for the girls category, in Group A, we shall be having Koboko Public, we shall be having Luke, we shall be having Moyo Star High, then Pakada. Also in Group B, we shall be having, that is St. Mary's, Ediofe, Rhino Camp, also SS. We shall be having Lodonga Seed, and then Nyarlo SS in Group B there. In Group C, we shall be having, that's Fara SS, that is, we shall be having Uringi SS, we shall be having Odravo SS, we shall be having Laropi and Maracha Domestic in Group C there. In Group D, we shall be having, that is Ajumani Model, Ebeneza, we shall be having Panyango SS, we shall be having, that is Yoyo SS, we shall be having, that is Bondo Army also in there. Meanwhile, in Group E, we shall be having, that's Logri Girls, we shall be having Okolo SS, we shall be having Otumbari, you may St. Mary, that is St. Francis, you may Memorial School. We shall be also having Kapagrinya in Group E there for the girls category. Meanwhile, for Group F, we shall be having Vura SS, Idiwa SS, Alwi Seed Secondary School. We shall be having War Girls, Keystone also in Group, that is Group F there. Meanwhile, for Group C, Group G, we shall be having Biaya SS, we shall be having Oleba Seed SS, we shall be having, that is Lotiwa SS, we shall also be having, that is Ulepi SS in there, not forgetting Muni Girls also in Group E there. In Group H, which is the last group for the girls category, we shall be having Koti SS, we shall be having Mamba SS, Katrini SS, and St. Mary's Assumpta Girls in that category there. And remember also really yesterday we did have games played in the world of the English Premier League, as I did promise you earlier on. And if I can also really be able to go through some of the games that we played yesterday, a number of them we actually played yesterday, and really if I can be able to maybe also give you some of the results of some of the games that did go on yesterday. We did have Everton playing a 1-1 draw, that was with Newcastle, and really this is something that maybe somebody out there couldn't expect, because Newcastle was at home, and with the current state of form they had, and somebody would maybe also say that they were going to take advantage of that, but really I must say the game ended, that is in 1-1 draw. Meanwhile, Nottingham Forest was able to beat, that is Fulham, 3-1 also. I believe that could also really be, maybe not, somebody could also not be believing in that, but really I must say this is the Premier League where anything can happen. Meanwhile, Bournemouth also did go on to beat, that is Crystal Palace, by a goal 0-0, as well as Burnley also really played with Wolves a 1-1 draw in there. Meanwhile, also in one of the games that really also did take place yesterday, we also did have West Ham playing with Tottenham 1-1 in there. And today we shall also be having more games. Really, somebody also may be asking which are some of the games that will be going on. That is tonight. Arsenal will be taking on Luton Town, while Brentford will be playing against Brighton and Hove Albion, as Man City will be taking on Aston Villa. And I must tell you that these are determinant games. If at all you drop points at this time, more so where the competition lies between the three teams, that is of Arsenal, Manchester City and Liverpool, where nobody is hoping to drop the points because the tables keep on changing, and really once you play a draw or once you lose a game, definitely it is going to throw you out, because we're just remaining with less than 10 games, and that means that there's no chance for dropping points in there, where the differences are also very, very much minimal, because the difference between the first team and the second team is just 2 points, and meanwhile the difference between the second team and the third team is just a point, and that means that there is no need for also really somebody dropping points is in there, as Liverpool continues to be on the lead, as Arsenal comes in the second place, while Manchester City also comes in the third place there. But I must say these are subject to changes in terms where a team drops point. We may also really see the tables changing in there, and that brings us to the end of today's discussions. Up next will be the news bulletin in Lubarati, and in a special way I want to wish each and every of you, and really one who actually watched us right from the time we began until this hour of the morning, I want to wish you a good day as we come back tomorrow for the Thursday edition of the same show. My name is Farish Majid. Have a blessed day. Thank you.